Richmond, you're the lead.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. Father, we thank you for the meeting we're about to go into, Lord, for the aldermen here and for the ones that's present at the meeting. Let us make decisions according to be the best ability and the direction of you and the direction that benefit everybody involved, Lord. We want you to remember the soldiers that are over on foreign soil. Remember Veterans Day upcoming here in the next few days. We'll give you the praise and honor and glory for everything we do here tonight and make the right decisions. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you all for this. Chief Dow, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Here.
Alderman Livingston,
Here.
Alderman Dodson,
Here.
Alderman Langford,
Here.
Alderman Speck,
Present.
Vice Mayor Whittingham,
Here.
Thank you, we're all present. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. I need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman,
Second.
second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to add, addition to the item number 8, please,
Okay.
concerning property maintenance code.
Okay, we will add that, make that item, but we'll vote on it, but it'll potentially be item number 8. Okay, also, I have a, ordinance amending, Title 8, by John Meadows, asked to put this on here. And also, I've got Jason Duke on the phone here to add the, airport, 5-year extension. That will be item 8, item number 9 will be the amendments for John Meadows. That will be the amendment of Title 8 for alcohol. Number 10, will be for the extension at the airport, engineering company. So with those additions added to the agenda, need a motion to accept the additions. Motion made by Alderman Dodson, second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. So we will add that to the agenda. Item number 8 will be the ordinance amending Title 8, the ordinance, and item number 9.
Well, 8 was property maintenance, 9 was.
Okay, sorry, property maintenance, and then number
Now,
9
John
would be
John Meadows, Title 8,
ordinance
it's in
Title 8.
Yeah, 10 was that.
It was extension report.
And then airports. Okay. So we will start with the item number 1 under new business, downtown revitalization. Mr. Ray Evans.
So no invoices for you this month, which is.
Thank you, Ray.
That's good news. Just wanted to update you on several things. We mentioned last month that PDOT had agreed to do some additional paving around the courthouse square. We've reached out to them as to when they think that they might be able to schedule that. Don't have an answer yet, but as soon as we do, we'll communicate with the mayor, and he can let the rest of the body know. You may have noticed that we had some issues with the new street lights on Spring Street for several weeks. Those have been taken care of. The contractor and his subcontractor went on site and has corrected whatever the issue was. So the street lights are now working on Spring Street again. You may also notice that over the last couple of weeks and today, We've had 3 new shade structures installed at the park, and a kiosk was installed at the park today. That is the last of the 2017-2018 diabetes grant money. So it was 100% reimbursement to the city for those efforts. The shade structures especially, we have several folks comment to us that when we had the pavilion reserved for a birthday party or whatever, a reunion, that there was no place to sit in the shade to watch children play. So we took advantage of having the few extra dollars left over, and were able to put in those 3 shade structures that we hope will help alleviate that. Report to you that the Industrial Development Authority of Aldermen County today took action on 2 payment in lieu of taxes proposals for Winningham Hardware and for Steel Coop. Both of those early in the process when they were trying to make their decision as to whether or not they were going to start a new business or restart a business. We had numerous discussions with them. We call that both of those properties are within our sales tax, state sales tax sharing area. So it was very important to us to make sure that those businesses opened and reopened for the good of the community, but also for the benefit of the property tax, sales tax sharing. So both of those businesses received payment in lieu of taxes equal to 75% of the property tax, city and county property taxes for 10 years. Just wanted to update you on that. Recall that when Central Park was being completed, that there were several in the community that tried to convince Bud Bishop that the park should be named in his honor, and Bud simply refused to let that happen. So instead, we convinced him that if we created a small pocket park at the corner of East Main and North Church, would he allow us to name that park after him, and he agreed to do so. And I will report to you that with the generosity of the Coleman family, we should be starting construction of that little pocket park probably before the end of this month. Mayor, I think you had some additional comments about a recent event that we had on Main Street.
Thank you, Ray. Miss Julia Bishop, which is with us tonight, I believe, I haven't seen her, she's hid behind John Meadows there, decided to create a fund to be used for ongoing care and maintenance and landscaping of our new city park as a way to honor Bud's love and dedication for beautifying our town. Our artist, activist for promoting Livingston, Tennessee and Overton County, visionary for the new city park, worked a tireless leader for downtown revitalization, giver of his time, energy, and money to our community. She gave to the help of her friends, Mr. Darren and Pat Oliver, Mitchell White and Kelly Coleman to help put together an art sale of Bud's beautiful artwork. The recent sale generated over $28,000, with 100% of the money being placed in the city park fund. Julie will work with the city on using the money for the landscaping and care of the gardens in the park. The city of Livingston is a recipient of one of these beautiful paintings created by Bud. Just a minute, we're going to unveil it. A local couple of journalists donated this artwork to honor Bud, his life of giving to our town. This painting is titled Big Sky, and we think it's not only a beautiful landscape painted for a photograph taken right here in Overton County, but it's also, ironically, represents Bud's big sky vision for our town. We'll be placing a plaque beside the painting that will pay tribute to Bud. Thank you, Julia, for your continuing generosity to Livingston on behalf of the entire town. Please know that we are extremely grateful to you in the gift of over $28,000. There are roughly 150 additional paintings still for sale for anyone interested. You may contact me or Julia or Mr. Kelly Coleman to arrange to view these beautiful paintings. And I must say, this is the first time we've truly honored Mr. Bishop, and these words truly are just not enough of what he done for this community. I've said this out loud from the podium, and I'll say it here. Bud was a great citizen of Livingston, and he made us a better place to be, made me personally a better mayor, because I got my hands smacked often if things just wasn't right. But he is truly, truly one of the reasons that Central Park exists today. And I hated so bad that he was unable to see the ribbon cutting on that. But Julia, thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the city council and the town for this painting. Mr. Kelly Coleman, thank you. Mitchell White, everyone. I'm sorry I buffled your name there a little bit, but thank you so much for what you have done to this community. Thank you for the donation. And the garden down there is beautiful, and it will continue to be beautiful with the acts that you have done here today. Okay? So, Mr. Coleman, if you could, I'd like to unveil this. Julia, if you could come up, the folks that made this happen, Kelly, and have a picture, city council, please. You can be a part of the photo. And let's get a photo real quick. Kelly, or someone would like to? Sorry.
Whoopsie.
All right, put your hands together, folks. If we can just take a picture as is right now.
Yeah, let's get Julia.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to cover up the picture. That's all right. Okay, good. Kelly, would you like to say something? Darren? Yeah? Anyone?
Thank you so much, Jerry. Love you.
That's it. I'm a big boy. I hope I didn't cut you yet.
Chris is my helper here, and, he worked cheaper than £5 so far. Hardest part of being sheriff, that's what you know. Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ray, do you have anything else?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 under new business, ordinance 2018-11-1. Mr. John Meadows.
Mayor, that's been before the board, I think a couple different times. Initially started with someone was wanting to open up a commercial shooting gallery or firing range within the corporate limits of the town of Livingston. At the time, the town's existing codes and ordinances regarding firearms prohibits the discharge of a firearm within the city limits of the town of Livingston. This first ordinance, 2018-11-1, is an ordinance which amends that, and the only change that is made is to make an exception for anyone discharging a firearm at a commercial firing range or shooting gallery. The second ordinance for you, number 2018-11-2, is an ordinance which establishes some minimal safety and construction standards for commercial shooting galleries or firing ranges. That's the second ordinance, and so that's what those are. I know we talked about this a couple different times, and but I'll be glad to answer any questions the board may
Does anyone have any questions for our attorney, Mr. John Meadows? Any board member? If not, any questions, comments?
This will take care of everything we discussed earlier, right, John, that you?
Yes, Mr. Bishop, the first one simply creates an exception to discharging a firearm within the town limits as long as it occurs at a commercial shooting gallery or firing range. And the second ordinance just amends our building codes that establishes some minimal construction standards for commercial shooting galleries.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or?
John, just on that first sentence, just help me understand, it's unlawful to carry all those things except an Army or Navy pistol, which shall be carried openly in the hand, and then it goes on to exclude military folks, so that doesn't sound right to me, but you're the.
Well, that has been in our code for, I don't know, that's, that particular part's antiquated, that's probably been in there for, I don't know, since the town of Livingston was founded or whatever. I'm not sure how long it's been there. But I mean, instead of rewriting the whole thing, the only thing I changed was before it was provided that it shall be unlawful for any unauthorized person to discharge a firearm within the town limits.
Okay.
So what we've done, I've only changed that last sentence to make an amendment with an exception of someone discharging a weapon within the confines of a commercial shooting gallery.
Do you think we need to change that portion or?
In the charter.
Yeah.
It probably, well, it's not in the charter, but it is in our
In the
municipal
codes.
code. I mean, that can be changed.
Is that your recommendation, John?
If that's what you all want to change, I'll do whatever y'all ask me to do as far as.
So if the board wants to change that, we can go ahead and pass this, with the, side note that we will change that, and obviously if the codes change, then this changes as well. So it's whatever the board wants to do.
My recommendation would be that the board go ahead and, because I think we have someone that's wanting to maybe start operation. And so my recommendation would be to go ahead and pass both of these ordinances. And if the council wants to later, update the language of how weapons and firearms are defined, to take out some of this language such as a, razor, dirt, knife, blackjack, brass knuckles, and things of that nature.
Right.
We can address that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. All right. Any more discussion? Not?
Do you need a separate motion for each one of them?
Yes, sir. Sure do. Alderman Lane.
I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance 2018-11-1.
All right. Motion made by Alderman Langford,
I'll second.
second by Alderman Dishman.
I make a motion that we accept ordinance 2018-11-1.
Yeah.
That's
Two.
one, he just did.
Two.
Yeah. When you do them separately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on the one, on Alderman Langford's, motion and second by Alderman Dishman, is there any more discussion on 2018-11-1? There's no more discussion. I'll that's for roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Cone,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
Yes.
Alderman Dodson.
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whittington.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Now we have ordinance 2018-11-2. John?
And that ordinance is reflects changes that are being made to our building codes that adds a special section for minimum safety construction standards for commercial shooting galleries.
Okay. Any discussion or any questions for our attorney, John Meadows?
This is what we've already went over, John, in the work session.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Make a motion.
Motion made by Alderman Dishman,
Second.
second by Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? No discussion for 2018-11-2. Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Dishman,
Yes.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Whittington.
Yes.
Alderman Cone. Motion passed.
Motion passed. Item number, thank you, Mr. John Meadows. Item number 4, Mr. Greg Davenport from J.R. Wofford and Company. Center there, Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Good to see you again. I like your shirts. I don't know if you had them on last time I was here or not, but I guess that's one benefit of short memory in some cases. Anyway, I want to update you on your current projects and on a situation we've been dealing with for about a year that probably needs some addressing. First and foremost, you all know that you've got 3 projects under construction right now. You've got the sewage pumping station projects over at Taylor Street and County Plant. The Taylor Street station, the wet well is set. Now, these were wore-out sewage pumping stations that need to be replaced. The wet well is set on that. We're waiting on electrical to get going. And on the county plant, the work is supposed to start next week. So those are really just kind of getting going right now. They were delayed several months because you can't order a pump off the shelf now. It's about a 16-week lead time on most pumps. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't get one that was good enough, but we wanted something that was specified for those certain conditions. So that project is going fine in our opinion. The sewer rehab part of that project up near Doak Street is complete, and we found one location up there that was about 25 gallons a minute of inflow coming into your sewer system. That was just water you were treating in perpetuity forever. So that was a real victory as part of that project. The other victory was that hopefully that sewer won't surcharge anymore because it's collapsed and potentially cause problem in people's yards. So that part is complete. For the wastewater plant, I'll remind you that you got a $525,000 CDBG grant for that. That grant was awarded in August, I believe. We had a pre-construction meeting, equipment's been ordered. All the equipment shop drawings are approved, and we expect the equipment to start arriving in December and January. The contractor was on site today looking at electrical work, and it's supposed to start next week in earnest. That's W&O Construction right here in town. And if you remember, that's a new screen at the headworks, renovation of the digesters with new coarse bubble aeration system, new flushing water pumps, so you can go back on reuse water at the plant, and then some electrical work for lighting and safety at your headworks. So that one's moving along. The Monroe Water Project. The water line along the bypass and all the way to the booster pumping station is complete, tested, sterilized, and in service. As y'all recall, we had an emergency renovation of that station last, I guess it would have been about a year ago, so that you could pump more water to Monroe because you were just running out up there. So the line from the booster station north up to just across the street from the post office is complete. It's installed. They're supposed to pump it up, test it tomorrow, and then once they sterilize it and run a back T-test on it, it will go in service. And this will effectively add about 60 to 80% capacity to the Monroe water system up there, which it was in dire need of. So that project's moving along. I expect that line to be in service hopefully in the next 2 weeks. And then it'll just be some cleanup and final closeout. The last thing I want to talk to you about is Hillham. Probably unbeknownst to most of you, this summer you almost ran out of water in Hillham. From July 4th to September 15th this year, the pumps that feed the Hillham system didn't shut off. They ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 10 weeks. Curtis and I were in frequent conversation during this time. There was quite a bit of teeth gnashing, and Jerry Dale and his crews were up there quite a bit trying to just tighten everything up as much as they possibly could. So we've been talking about this for 2 or 3 years. It got to the point I said, I'm gonna do something about it. We put together a preliminary engineering report and analyzed the system. And the bottom line is that growth in that area is right at the existing system capacity. We took the number of customers that you've got up there and we multiplied it just as a rough check to make sure there wasn't something wrong with the system. And we came up with about 140 gallons a minute of usage up there with some acceptable leakage factored in. And the pumps can put out, they're rated for 200. Well, Jackson County is also a customer, and they use about 60 gallons a minute. So during the summer, the system is doing all it can do to just keep up. And if you don't do something with it, ultimately, you're gonna be just run out of water up there. And there's been some emergency measures taken up there to ensure that the customers at Hillham had water. So, the system is supplied by a single 6-inch line from town up State Route 85. There's a booster station right there at Flat Creek that boosts the water up to Hillham. The tank at Hillham is actually a little bit lower than the tank in Livingston, but due to friction head loss to the existing line, you have to use pumps to transport the water up there. So, we've double checked to make sure the system was tight. We looked at the pump run times. It ran 10 weeks straight last summer and didn't shut off. There were times when it got down, there was 2 feet of water in the tank. And so we looked at, well, what are some things we could do to improve the system capacity? Unfortunately, since Hillham is so far away from town and you've got one 6-inch line up there, there's really no way to increase the pump capacity to appreciable gain, because you get to a 6-inch line this long, there's only so much flow you can put through it, where you just, the velocity gets to a terminal point. Because the pressure loss in the line is not linear with the velocity, it's with the square. So if you're at 4 feet per second, you go to 8 feet per second, the pressure loss will go up 4 times as much. So we looked at running a new line from the city up Hillham Highway to the booster station at Flat Creek, and then from Flat Creek up to the tank at Hillham. That was alternative number 1. I'm giving you the cliff notes because I know everybody wants to get home and raise loud tonight, but I can extend this out as long as you desire. Alternative number 2.
Sound like a preacher.
I'll take that as a compliment. Alternative number 2 is to run a line up Upper Hillham Road to Flat Creek, cut down Flat Creek to the booster station, and then run from Flat Creek up to Hillham. And then alternative number 3 was to run a new line and a new booster station all the way up Upper Hillham Road, all the way past Flat Creek, all the way up to State Route 85, Hillham Highway, and then the last 2,000 to 4,000 feet to the tank. So, the route up the highway is problematic. You've got easements you're gonna have to acquire. The construction is going to be slow because you're dealing with individual property owners. When you get off the right of way, you gotta go down those deep hollers and back up the other side of ditches. You can't stay up on the edge of pavement. Much like we were forced to do when we went on the north leg of the Monroe water system. So that's not really a desirable route to us. Another factor is that when you get so far off the right of way, if you've got a leak over there, you can't see it. You have to get over there and walk each of those lines to try to find that, which slows you way down. Alternative number 2, which is up Upper Hillham Road and through Flat Creek, results in really too much water line length to make it cost effective. So we ditched that one. And then alternative 3, which is all the way up Upper Hillham Road with a new pumping station, in our opinion, is the most efficient route. The line can be installed about 3 feet off the edge of the pavement with the permission of the county. And there's not as deep a cuts on that road as there are on the highway, so we feel like there'll be less rock excavation. So here's the bad news, here's the numbers. Alternative number 1, we estimate at $2.485 million. Number 2 is $2.655. And number 3 is $2.315. Now, it just so happens that the one that I prefer, because of the land conditions, was $2.3 million. So, the reason for that is it's the least cost, as I just said, has the least number of permits and easements, and it's closer to the pavement. Now, the permits and easements are very important because the more permits and easements you have to get, the more you slow down the timeline of the project. And what that means is we're going to encourage you to move forward with this job and get it designed so you can take advantage of the 2019 construction season. If you don't do that and you have to go beside the highway and you have to accrue all those easements all the way out there, we all know that comes at a significant cost and a significant delay. So my recommendation is that you move forward with alternative number 3, which is going down Upper Hillham Road and putting in a new booster station to increase the water supply to Hillham. Now, this is not something that I consider to be, can we do it? It's a matter of when are you going to do this? And if you let Hillham run out of water, then what's going to happen is, you gotta think about it, you're really a year to 15 months before you can help them. Because you gotta design it and you gotta construct it. So, I found a lot of information at you. It's your decision, not mine. All my job is to tell you what the alternatives are and give you estimated costs.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Does anybody got any questions for Mr. Davenport? Alderman Coleman?
Greg, what size line did you suggest in that alternative?
Alternative number 1 and 2, which are currently utilize the existing pump station, is a new 6-inch line. Alternative number 3 is a new 8-inch line, because we're basically only using the existing 6-inch line as a, I guess you could say, it's not a transportation line, it's just a feed to the existing customers.
So you feel like a new 8-inch line in Ultimate 3, I mean, at what point is an 8-inch line, if Hillham's growth continues over the next 20 years, going to be undersized?
Good question. And that's one part I left out. The 8-inch line alternative will let you transport a little over 400 gallons a minute out to Hillham. Right now, you're somewhere around 180 to 200, so it effectively doubles the capacity of the system out there.
And you did say a new pumping station with alternate 3, right?
Yes, sir.
And that will be placed where now? I mean,
We,
maybe, you didn't say, I don't know.
I didn't say, it's a good question, Mr. Dishman. The honest answer is, I don't know yet.
Right.
But somewhere between here and just past the Walnut Grove Church of Christ. There's a high point past the Walnut Grove Church of Christ that you go over that's at elevation 1175. And if we put it past that at Flat Creek, it might draw the pressure down too low for those people up on the high point, one of which currently has a booster pump to feed themselves, their water. They sit up off the road a little bit.
One more question, Greg. Something I didn't realize when I came on this board is the real makeup of the entire water system for Livingston, Overton County. And I learned a lot as I've been talking to you recently, but can you just give this group a real quick snapshot of our water system and which communities in our county are supplied by the town of Livingston versus the utility district?
I will. Y'all know more about your water system than I do, so Jerry Dale just fill in the holes where I leave them. But basically, all your water comes from the Cumberland River. It's raw water that's pumped through Hillham all the way to town. You've got a 4 million gallon a day water treatment plant that was constructed in 1962. Actually, the founder of our firm, Roy Walford, designed it. And Livingston has the distinction of being our longest tenured client in our existence since 1956. So the water's pumped into town from the water plant. You've got several large tanks in town. You have one high pressure zone. It's a small tank that's sitting up, I don't exactly remember the name of it. It's a 100,000 gallon tank. It's in the center of town. There's a hill there. Jerry Dale, what do y'all call that tank?
We call it, rock pressure.
Okay. The two major locations outside the city you serve are up towards Monroe, that goes all the way to the lake. And there is a lot of water pumped up in that direction. The other area is Hillham. And Hillham has grown substantially in the last 30 years. We didn't design the Hillham system or the Monroe system. Those were, from what I recall, it was before I even got out of college, but it was, and that's been a while. They were designed as part of a community development block grant programs for the county, and then they were deeded to the city at some point. So really, Monroe and Hillham are the two outlying rural areas you serve, and you have a spider network of lines that leave those locations, and like you sell water to Jackson County right now. And we've taken care of Monroe. Hillham is really the last place that needs to be addressed, other than the fact that you never finish fixing an old water system. There's always work to be done, and the same for sewer systems.
One of the reasons I asked that question is because I think there've been folks that have commented on, why are City of Livingston employees out halfway to Birdstown working on the side of the road? Why are city employees in Hillham working on, the side of the road? And you just answered my question.
Just because you own the system.
That's right.
If it was to put in this $2.3 million system, how long would you think it'd take us to get our money back?
Never.
Now,
I mean, it'd be over 50 years probably. From a financial basis, David, I just don't think it would pay for itself, and I'd be lying to you if I told you something else. But I do think you'll get to a point where you'll have to refuse service to people, especially if they've got, you know, something that's a decent sized water unit.
Greg?
Well, in other words, before that we got our system ready, it'd be time to do 2 or 3 more.
Say again, I didn't.
In other words, we never would get our system paid for, and I mean, we'd have other systems to do.
You mean other projects?
So I'm talking about back that, we would probably have to do it again by the time it's ever paid for.
Down at Hillham?
Yeah.
I guess,
I think you should have it paid for in 20 years. That's a standard municipal bond issue. And I would be shocked if in 20 years you have to go and expand the capacity. But there may be like booster station work, because you know how equipment is, it wears out. But as far as new lines, I would doubt that in 20 years you'll do that to Hillham.
well, one key thing you said, and about the 8-inch line, you said that was increasing. We're doing 180 gallons a minute. You said it increased to 400 gallons. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So see, that's more than double. So Jerry, that's a positive, right? I have one quick question to Jerry or Greg. The Hillham tank and system, is that covering Harsh Chapel and down that way? It don't, does it? Okay. Because I know that, you know, we're getting building on down towards there too, so it's not covering any of that. Okay.
No, it covers down 136 to the Royal River, down that direction.
So it don't go towards Harsh
and
Chapel.
the rest will be covered by West Oak.
West Oak, okay.
There's been times, folks, that, the water department, and most of them, or some of them are here tonight, that, due to leaks, that customers, have experienced low water pressure or no water at all. And that's with crews working around the clock to try to find a leak. And as Mr. Davenport has explained to you, there's no wonder why that happened. The water system at Hillham's at capacity. And in fact, if there was a customer that insisted having a 2-inch or 4-inch water line down at Hillham, whether that be a chicken house or that be a manufacturing, we just could not supply the water. We could not supply the demand because we don't have it. And if we did, then you're talking 1,000 residents in Hillham out of customers out of water. That's just a fact. Jerry, if I've misspoken,
No, sir.
Eric, you're here too, you work on the system. And these guys are truly small engineers, when they have to go to Hillham area
What
to find a leak.
have we got our leakage down to now?
Well, currently, now you have to take this at a year at a time. But we was at 40%. Now, we had a 40% loss, David. Now, we had a tough time, in the Hillham and Monroe area. Now, for the last couple of months, and I've got Jack Parrott here and Jerry Dale Kennedy that can tell you right now, our system is about as tight as it can be. Our tank levels are full, our pumps are turning off automatically. tight now, and I knock on wood because that can change just like that. And then we could send a crew out to Hillham or Monroe at 7, or at 6:40, and try, and demand them to find a leak, and it's black dark at night. Now, that's how bad it is come there. So, but we're making improvements and we're making grounds.
Yes, sir.
And as Mr. Davenport said, I think it's a step in the right direction. Alderman Coleman?
I just want to add to that, David, I think your concern is valid as it relates to our waste. When you stated a 40% waste, that's alarming. I think that sounds alarming to people. But we learned just recently that around 25% is considered normal
State
for
average.
most municipalities.
And,
So you're never gonna be at zero.
Correct.
and if I might address that, a lot of it is how people measure things. People can say, well, we had Flushing, and we estimated 10 million gallons this month in Flushing. Well, it's an estimation. Well, if they're trying to make their leakage look right, do you think they're gonna underestimate their flushing? Of course not. So there's a lot of ways to game the leakage system. And what I look at is I look at how much the water plant pumps and how much you sell. And that's leakage, that's all unaccounted for water. And it's flushing, if you have a fire, it includes that, but my experience has been,
And fire departments that hook on to our hydrants that take water that maybe necessarily does not call Rocky Dial and tell
Right.
them they took 25,000 gallons of water, right, Rocky?
correct. So, but if you look at all that, it's really not that much water. I mean, if somebody was stealing or taking that much water, you'd be like
Well,
out of pressure. But, so when you hear other towns talk about, well, we got this leakage, or we got that leakage, just put a little factor on that for yourself. My opinion, if I were sitting in your shoes and you had 25% leakage, I'd be happy. You can't get below 15. And I dare anybody that's got a system that's 80 years old to tell me they got 15%. And it's not like gas. Natural gas is gonna tell on itself every time. Water goes in the ground, you don't see it. It'll leak over 10 feet and go in a sewer, and it's gone, and it could do that for 40 years.
Or a creek.
Or a creek, and you just happen to be out there one day, and it all comes together for you. So the leakage in water systems is a very challenging situation. But with that said, if you don't always try to fix it, it will naturally defer to 40%. If you just don't do anything but fix what you see, it will automatically get worse. So you have to have the resources, and let's face it, folks, you gotta have the money to go out there and fix this stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Is there any questions for Mr. Davenport? Alderman Coleman, you have none?
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, Greg, I just want you to talk about the sewer system and some of these substations that we have that we didn't complete.
Okay. Back when we bid the Monroe Water and the sewage pumping stations, we had 7 sewage pumping stations and the sewer rehab that were scheduled to get done. The bids exceeded available funds. And we made, when I say we, the city, with our inputs, made a decision that Monroe Water was number 1. And there was no way to halfway do Monroe Water. You had to do the whole thing or just don't do any of it. So that took precedent. And then that resulted in 5 of the pumping stations not getting completed. Now, just to be frank with you, we underestimated part of that. The other, and this isn't an excuse, it's a fact, during the design phase, we found out things were much worse than we thought they were. And also in the last, since 14, bid prices and prices of everything has been going up substantially. So there was a unfunded liability at those pumping stations of just over $1 million, $1,047,000. And that's if we bid them today and they came in at the same price.
That's for the other 5.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, that's for, Hillcrest, Buena Vista, High School, Hidden Valley, and Industrial Park.
How much was that, Greg?
$1,047,000.
So you're saying we should have done this before, but it was cost prohibitive for the town. And so we're sitting with 5 pumping stations for our sewer system that are close to, being out of service possibly.
The answer to your question is, you ran out of money, and they're not close to being done, they're done. They're passing.
Right.
And ask the guys, don't ask me, they're the ones that gotta deal with it, but they're in rough shape.
And what Mr. Davenport's report will show, that instead of going down in the hole, you will have all the panels up on the ground, which makes it tremendously safer, than what it was. And that's the newer style of, pumping stations that we have, and that's what Mr. Davenport has recommended. Now, folks,
So,
I hate to say this, but it costs you money to flush. At the end of the day, you may not think that it is important until it's coming, and I'm just being real here for a minute, your bathtub or your kitchen sink and things of that nature. That's how important sewer is. So it's also important for economic development to make sure, sewer system is sound.
so you're saying we need to spend $3.5 million just to get our Gilham water system, resolved and get these 5 pumping stations repaired?
If they bid in at the same amount.
That's it, that's a best case.
That's without contingency.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So when we start talking about taxes for our town, all right, this is real stuff.
And you know, we can, I mean, what I would propose is you need to do something about Hillman. Okay? I propose that you would get that ready to bid and get that part behind you. Because you're gonna have to, we gotta survey it. It takes time to do that. It's not something you can snap your fingers overnight. You're looking at 4 to 6 months to get the plan and specs together. And what I would propose is evaluate the cost estimate at that time. In the meantime, I believe that it wouldn't hurt you to put in for a community development block grant for those 5 pumping stations. Now, that's only gonna be $525,000, but you're halfway there, more or less, with that, okay? Now, that's contingent upon the wastewater plant getting done on time. We're doing everything we can and to push it along. And that should be announced by next August. And we can prepare a pretty quick bid package on that. But the problem with waiting on a grant is your bid price will go up because of Davis Bacon wage rate, American Iron and Steel, and you won't be able to bid it until 2020. But it's $525,000. I'm just saying it's not equivalent to $525,000 in cash. There's strings attached to it because it's a grant.
And you may get it, you may not, and,
Right.
and we didn't get the last CDBG, did we?
Well, you got the one at the wastewater plant, but we did get the one before that.
That's right.
Right.
So the total of both, costs is what, Rick, what are you?
Right after that.
$1.5 million. I took the, I went ahead and just got a,
62, $3,362,000. So might as well just say $3.5 million.
3.1.
And that's if they come in today, what they bid at a year ago.
Right.
That ain't gonna happen.
Well, I mean, we'll do mostly PVC pipe, but I know the duct on our pipe guys that said there's a 25% price increase effective January 1st because of steel, iron prices.
But now, you know, is fixing to start at the wastewater treatment. Where'd Danny go?
They are.
Yeah, that
Yes.
project's done, or it's not done, but it's.
It's not done, but it's already.
Previously funded project.
If we go ahead and do these 5 pumping stations, can we go ahead and put in a bid or put in for a grant, even though they're already started? Can you do
No,
that?
you'd have to wait. But you wouldn't have to wait until 2020 to do that, David. You would put in the grant and hopefully it would get announced in like, the fall of 19, and then you can pick a path from there. If it gets funded, you got half the money. If it don't get funded, then just turn around and bid them on a municipal
Right.
bond.
So the right thing to do.
So it's not a tremendous delay to do that.
It is to go ahead and get the 3.5, it appears, and then if we get the grant, then we just draw off the money, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's up to the board, what they're gonna do.
Well, what ultimately what this is gonna do,
Yeah, that's true.
ultimately what this is gonna do is it's gonna affect the water rates.
Yeah.
And your wastewater rates.
Yeah, that's right. So.
And to your point about paying for it, none of these projects in this system, they're all rehab or reinforcement job. You know, the only way you could compare that was to say the new customers you would gain at Hillham, what would their revenue be? But you and I both know that that's, yeah.
That's right. Okay, is there any questions, for Mr. Davenport? Anybody want to take action?
I'm for it, I don't know what's our first step?
Well, I think the first step is to allow, to go ahead and approve, the J.R. Wofford Company to go ahead and start the process on the design work, going to, from Livingston, Upper Hillham, to Hillham, the 8-inch line that he's talking about.
I make
think that's
that
the starting
motion. I make that
process.
motion.
Also, to go ahead and fix the existing, pumping stations for the sewer. So motion made by Alderman Coleman, this will be at $3.5 million. Second by Vice Mayor Bill Winningham. Is there any questions?
Do we know what it's gonna look like,
Yeah, so it appears, and the way that I went ahead, and I had this on the agenda, and I went ahead and got some, quotes just from the pond fund, of course, we would, and it looks as if for the way they recommended to do it is to do 2 loans for 10 years, at, 1.8 million. And then the second one that would equal up to 3.5. You know, have an annual payment of $217,000 a year, which would, in essence, cause a 4% water rate increase across the board.
4%?
Yes, sir.
But do we need to go ahead and do that bond issue now in order for them to get started with their survey and stuff, or is that?
I think in order for Mr. Davenport to get paid, yes, we will need to, because the design.
Are you gonna expect
How many dollars, you said it was 217,000?
Yes, sir.
For how many years?
10.
10. And that'll be completely paid for?
No, I don't want to mislead you, David, it'd be 2 payments, you would have 2 loans, but we would not draw from the 3.5 million, you draw for the 1.8 until that 1.8 million is gone, okay? So depending on when the work is complete, it'd be 217,600. Now, once we went back and got the other amount, it'd be 211. Yes,
So then you'd have 217 plus 200.
that's right, that's exactly right,
For 10 years.
that's right.
What do the 2 of those equate to on a, rate increase? What's the equivalent?
4%.
That, okay, so
It'd
both of
be-
them combined, it's
Yeah, it'd be
still
4% this year, and then we would see
Gotcha.
as we would budget each year, but I just want to commit to 1 year because we don't know what the future may hold, but, I mean, that's the way it looks like. As you can see now, again, this is just a quote, don't hold them to the numbers, this is just a quote. Everybody get one? The way that you could do with a 3.5 or 3.6, but you'd be drawing money, or you'd be paying interest on 3.6 that you're not even using.
So you do the 1.8 and delay the other one?
Absolutely.
8 to 1.7?
Absolutely.
Till you need it?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's what I was wanting to see if we couldn't wait till we needed it anyway, so
Right.
that makes more sense.
Yes, absolutely. That's through State Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund.
Is that all part of your motion?
Yeah, we got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Dodson.
Yes.
Alderman Langford.
Yes.
Alderman Spec.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Fisher.
Yes, we got this good.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you.
You're free to stay or head back toward Nashville.
I appreciate it, and I really appreciate the fact that we've been your engineer since 1960. It's been long enough, nobody really knows for sure, do they?
Have a good-
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, Mr. John Meadows, heavy truck traffic.
Mayor, that was, I think the last time I was here, Alderman Spec had some questions about me doing some research on heavy truck regulation. And in your packets, there's some information. Apparently, this is a pretty common topic that comes up in other small towns. And I have attached some information from the legal department at MTS, as well as some sample ordinances that regulate heavy truck traffic, including one from Monterey that prohibits heavy truck traffic on a particular street between certain hours of the day. So the city, the question was posed to me as to whether or not the town would have the authority to regulate heavy truck traffic. And I can't remember the exact location, but the city does in fact have that authority to regulate that if they choose to do so. I haven't prepared any proposed ordinance for you all because I'm not sure exactly what you want to do. I have submitted several samples for you all to look at and maybe take into consideration. And if you do decide to proceed with it, I'll be glad to.
Mr. Meadows, I've looked at the samples and read it as you go. In fact, I've got a call in to MTS. It appears that you wrote a letter to Roger Campbell, a friend of mine out of Maryville. And I've got a call in to him at this time. But looking at your samples, if you wanted to say no truck traffic from the hours of 8 p.m. To 6 a.m., I think it's what Alderman Speck was looking at, or maybe 5 heavy truck traffic, that is.
And I think that is possible, assuming that there's an alternate route to get in and out, that's possible.
I believe there's an alternate route.
Yeah. On the street I was talking about.
Yeah.
Now, there's other complaints. I know Bill Linder, when he was alderman, he had complaints, from people from the Jake breaks, but, my dad's a retired truck driver, and I know you've gotta use those things in time, but, I mean, if there's alternate routes, I'd like to see us take advantage.
I don't have no problem with regulating it whatsoever, but is that a city street or is that a state highway?
City.
It's city now.
That's city
Which,
street.
remind me which road
It
we're talking
would
about.
be if you go to the first red light,
We're
you
talking
know,
old
West Main,
42.
and make a left on 42, goes by Debbie Mitchell's and up to
Old
Potter's.
42 is a city street.
That's right.
Okay.
But,
These are two different issues. One's a heavy truck traffic and one is the Jake break issue. Those are two totally.
Well,
separate
I think what Alderman Speck is maybe insinuating is this noise
Get the
from
heavy
the
trucks
trucks.
off, and then you'll
And
eliminate
you'll eliminate
that.
the noise, that's right. And so,
There
and
are-
I think the main, excuse me,
There are businesses on that road that will need heavy truck traffic, but can't stop them.
right, absolutely.
We just wanna, regulate it at certain times.
Yeah, I think residents has had complaints simply about, maybe a loud muffler noise, in the late hours of night. And I think that's what they were concerned about. Alderman Speck, is that?
Yeah. So, what to do?
So you're needing guidance from us as to how we wanna word it? I don't know enough about it to tell you.
Well, why don't we take it under advisement? I'd like to talk to Mr. Campbell from Maryville to see exactly what they did. I appreciate the work, John, that you have done in this, and MTS and several cities. One is in Monterey, where they monitor the noise ordinance there, but I think the council just needs a little bit more time.
well, that, and I'd like to know what streets are gonna be affected too, what routes, maybe.
Okay.
And, if residents can call in and say, look here, I mean, besides Rickman Road, there may be others. We need to put signs up if we do a record.
Yeah.
Vote.
Is Chief Etheridge here?
Yes, sir.
Greg, if you can monitor the calls that come in that, area of town and see what you can report back to the city council. Also, I think that several residents was gonna bring a petition to the board, but I think that, maybe they slowed down a little bit in the event that we was gonna bring it to the council. But I'm certain that they could crank that back up if need to. But Chief, if you would, bring us some numbers about anyone that is.
Calls
that
for
is
service related to.
Yes.
Jake breaks and heavy truck traffic
Yes.
on the city streets.
In that area,
Are you
please.
taking calls on it, Greg, or?
Not that I'm personally aware of, but I'll just have to go back and ask.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
And for purposes of drafting an ordinance, we'll need to know which streets are identified, what sections of the streets, and exactly what regulations we're putting in, the specific weight capacity, in addition to certain times prohibited during certain times or not, so.
Thank you. We'll take that under advisement and have it on for next month's agenda. Ms. Phyllis, please, if you will have that. Item number 6 is a pay scale. Mr. Ken Dodson?
Yes. Yeah, I know that, several months back, we discussed this. It was brought to our attention of the need that the issue that we're having in the city of training folks and letting them get fully trained and then leave and go elsewhere for other employment for future, for higher wages and so forth. We addressed that, we identified that that was an issue, but we decided not to really take any action on it at that time, but we kind of promised our employees that once the new board was seated, that we would address it again. So I just wanted to put it on here so we could say that we hadn't forgot about it, and I think it's still an issue from what I'm hearing from, especially from public safety,
Yeah.
if not other places in the city.
Yeah, there's other areas in the city I know that, has came to me and voiced concern about the pay scale, and I think it's warranted and needed. Can we have that in a work session or call meeting again?
As long as we address it,
Yeah, I
we
wanna
may
see
still
it
get to the
addressed.
point that we don't take any action, but I think we owe it to them.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it in a work session, and, because I asked Eric Ramsey, and he's here now, and I'm not embarrassing you or nothing, he said he's been here almost 7 years, you know, and I don't know how many increase he's got, but, you know, if we're gonna do a pay scale, let's look at the whole board situation and not just one particular part, because we've got it
Okay.
all.
Didn't,
Thank you.
wasn't that
Thank you all.
wasn't that presented?
It was.
For the entire city?
Yes, sir, it
Yeah.
was. November the 20th at 5 o'clock, we can have a thought meeting on that. November the 20th at 5 o'clock, and we will take a look at the, across the board, on the pay scale for each employee across.
Every department, right?
Yes. Need a
I
motion?
want to make a comment on that.
Yes, sir.
As I've done some research on this, one particular area that's of great concern to me on this subject is in our police department, specifically. And I completely support a review of the pay scale throughout the entire city personnel. But in particular, in the police department, it's disturbing to me that we have continued to be challenged with high turnover of our certified and, in some cases, non-certified police officers who have come in to work for our city at a starting wage of $12 per hour, who put their lives on the line to protect all of us. And we have some policemen who are still protecting us that have been here for 5+ years, who have gained the certification that the city has most likely paid at least $10,000 to train this employee, or employees. My understanding is that's about what it costs to send someone to the academy. And we're losing people to surrounding counties for $1, $2, $3 an hour. I don't understand why we aren't following the current personnel policy that is written in our city guidelines of personnel policies. There's nothing in there that says you start an employee at $12 an hour. But to have a city policeman that's been here for 5 years making $13 an hour, to me is an embarrassment. And I'm committed to do something about this. So I appreciate you bringing this up, Ken.
Yes, you bet. Thank you, Alderman Coleman, thank you. Yes,
Do you
Alderman
need that as
Dodson.
a motion for the call meeting?
Yes, sir, I do.
I'd like to make that.
Motion made by Alderman Dodson to have a call meeting in November 20th, 5 o'clock. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? All for the motion, let them know, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Item number 7 is Televic Conference. If we had we did have a work session with Televic Conference, and what Televic Conference is all about is providing sound system here for this conference room. And at a conference that I was at in Murfreesboro, they set up and had a microphone system that was twofold. A was a wireless system, B was with the wire. The council met and liked what they had seen, and that amount was $7,293. Also, that came with that as part of a additional was a camera system. The camera system that was set up here would be 2 cameras. One, the camera that would face the crowd. B, it would be a camera system that would each councilman that talk, it would track you, and that would give us an opportunity to go onto our website and be able to live stream online on demand. So that cost came at $13,643 for a total of $20,936. At Televic Conference, there will be an installation with that, a fee with that, and I think the general public has spoke to me, and they'd like to be able to watch the city council on demand simply because.
What happened to our local TV stations that used to come here, Clay?
I mean, well, there's not one anymore.
There's not?
No, we used to have, I don't want to.
It was Channel 14.
Yeah.
It was Comcast.
Oh, yeah, Comcast, Channel 14,
So they're no longer in existence.
they're no longer in existence. And, so I thought about that, and we use this room for training, and so we just divided out payment-wise through each, department, because like I said, we use this room for training, so, it was $20,936. Does anybody want to entertain the motion for that? Again, we would get it plumbed into our website. You go to www.cityoflivingston.com.
Do we know if the $20,000 in-house, or we gonna have to go borrow that?
No, it's in-house.
Who would install it first?
They would have a company install it.
Okay. Who's gonna have to get somebody to install it?
No, they do be a professional install.
Is these wire mics or wire?
Yeah, they're wired.
But there will be one at the podium.
Oh, yeah.
That, I think that was all, it was all in that.
Yeah.
Quote, and for all that information you sent to us,
Yes, sir.
it's all in there.
Yeah.
I make the motion, we can do it.
Motion made by Alderman Ken Dodson, second by Vice Mayor Bill Winningham. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Speck, Vice Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
Yes.
Alderman Dodson.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item number 8 is Mr. Winningham wanted to talk about the property maintenance.
Well, we've been talking about this for some time, and I think we need to put some teeth in or do something about it. It's been going on for years, I've been involved with it several years in the city, but it's on this property maintenance code. And I know we can't do it all at one time, but maybe we can take it a section at a time, and maybe when we have a lot of abandoned vehicles around the city, and maybe start with that and get those cleared up, get them out of the discussion.
Bill, we're gonna be here on November the 20th. Yeah.
More back then,
Yeah, do you wanna, that, just right after the call meeting, we have a discussion with that. Is that okay with the board, or is it? Yeah, okay.
Part of that same call meeting.
Well, it just be a work session on that, and I'll go put it on the agenda, so we have a call meeting and then a work session, if that's okay, Ken.
Right.
All right.
I think it would be helpful to, prior to that work session, two issues. One, for all of us to be certain that when we come to that work session, we've read the existing personnel policy. And then two, to brief ourselves on the existing property maintenance code, and then take a look back at some of the things that have been proposed and discussed by Envision Livingston in the last 6 months. So that, you know, when we come, we can have, be ready to discuss it and have our ducks in a row.
I'll make a point to make sure each board member
Gets a
has
copy.
those items, on column. And, so, okay, to act on Alderman, Vice Mayor Winningham's to do a, directly after the column meeting, to have a work session, with the property maintenance code. Vice Mayor Winningham has made the motion.
One other comment on that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, or there's a motion, there's not a second, before we have
Second.
discussion. Okay, second, now discussion, go ahead.
Okay, one other comment on that. I think I've mentioned to this group once before, but as I've walked these streets and talked to people, as I was trying to, gain their trust to vote for me, this was the number one issue that I heard over and over and over, was clean up this town. Whether it's abandoned vehicles or homes that have, here in town that have burned to the ground, that's still, partially, sitting there. You know, there's just endless places of examples of this. And the way I understand it, our current code does not give us the teeth to address those situations. So, again, I think this is step one in that process of trying to, address that.
Thank you, Alderman Coleman. There's a motion and a second, any more discussion? All for the motion, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion passed, unanimous. Item number 9 is the, John Meadows with the ordinance amending, John Meadows, the ordinance, Title 8 of alcohol. Yeah, sorry, Jason, you're the last item.
I think it was the September meeting, I think was the first reading, when the board adopted the model code concerning alcohol retail package stores that was submitted to us by MPAS, and the city adopted those. The first reading was in September, I think the second reading was in October. However, those model codes were not really specific and left out some provisions that, an example being that the makeup of the beer board and things of that nature. So what I've done is I took the model impasse ordinances that the city had adopted, sort of incorporated in some of the stuff that's always been in the town's ordinances, alcohol code. What this does is it organizes and it recodes the Title 8, whatever municipal code concerning alcohol. It makes provision for the retail package stores, as well as regulation of beer, as well as wine in retail stores. And I don't think there's anything in here that's not already been discussed at some prior meeting. We've just formally, I drafted Title 8 to match the MTS model codes that we previously passed.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. Any questions for John Meadows, our attorney? Okay. If there's no questions for Mr. Meadows, I will entertain a motion to accept this code recommended by John Meadows.
Give us just a second, we just got it this morning.
Yeah. Well, as John said, I think that we've been over this a couple of times.
John, there's still nothing in here pertaining to footage from church houses or schoolhouses.
No, there's nothing in here that prohibits, there's not any distance requirements, and, you know, I think we talked about this before. And I'll be clear, if this board wants to vote tonight to put in some kind of distance or footage requirements concerning the sale of beer within certain, public gathering places, schools, churches, things of that nature, the board certainly has the authority to do that. Now, anybody that's already outside of that would be grandfathered in. But this board voted a long time ago, I remember coming here to a meeting one night when the city had previously done away and repealed any of those distance requirements before, okay? Now, as far as liquor by the drink goes, the city does not have any authority to regulate the distance on liquor by the drink permits and things of that nature. That's governed strictly by the state, and there are no requirements. So there is the possibility, if the city does have footage regulations concerning sale of beer, that a person may be able to get a permit to sell liquor by the drink, but they would not be able to get a beer permit, because that distance requirement would not be in congruence with the state.
Well, it is now, though, if you've got the liquor permit, you can automatically sell beer.
That's right. That's right.
So the city, the board does have the authority to enact those distance requirements that we've done away with in the past.
There's none in this policy.
And this says it's not, there's no distance requirements. Yeah, we didn't change anything with respect to that.
Okay.
So it's the way it was before.
Okay.
Thank you, John. So is there a motion, is there a question, or anybody got any?
I have a question.
Alderman Coleman?
David, I know this is clearly a concern for you. Are there any examples of situations that are specific that you're?
There's no examples, but I mean, I've got a problem with, a liquor store being next to a school or something, or also, next to a church house. I mean, that's just showing disrespect. Take Chris's funeral home right here. I mean, he'd hate to have a liquor store joining his property. I don't know why he would be it, or I would.
Well, I mean, I think, I understand, and I respect your concerns about that. Would we then have to go back and tell the food line they can't sell wine because they're across the street from the high school, or the marathon because they sell beer across from the high school? Would that be applicable?
I don't know if you'd have to go back, no, you can't go back and tell them because they're already grandfathered in, but you gotta put your foot down somewhere.
Well, do you have a recommendation that we should consider?
I don't know what the recommendation is, but I don't want this policy right here.
I know, and I respect you, but you've said this several times. I'm just curious if you have a specific recommendation that you'd like to put on.
2,000 feet.
2,000 feet?
Okay.
Okay. Is that,
You're making that in a motion?
is that a motion that we
No,
adopt
you said a
that?
recommendation, so I said let's go.
I know, but I think we all could have that, we have that flexibility to make a motion, right? To establish that in our policy?
I'll make a motion, we approve it as presented.
All right, motion made by Alderman Dodson. Is there a second on Alderman Dodson's motion
What was his motion?
to accept it as John Meadows
Yeah,
presented?
I would say that.
All right, second by Vice Mayor Bill Winningham. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Winton,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dishman,
No.
Alderman Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Mackford,
No.
motion passed.
Motion passed 4-2 vote. Item number 10, Mr. Jason Duke. Jason, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Can you turn him up? All right, Jason, you're up. You're on the agenda as the, item number 10 would be the, recommendation of the airport board.
All right, this topic is to renew a service that we already have in place, so this is not asking for anything new. This is in regard to our selection for an engineering firm for professional airport services for Livingston. So, we had 3 firms submit proposals, those were Stantec, S&N, and Barge. So what I did, I read firm that's got a proven track record with PDOT aeronautics, because PDOT, every state's different to work with, and PDOT's got a large staff that we've found very good to have a close relationship with. So I reviewed the scope of the project, and we gave us examples of all the airports each firm gave us, how comprehensive they were and what they touched on. Some firms tend to favor paving projects, and air construction, electrical communications, et cetera. So all three of these firms have offices in Nashville, also Chattanooga. They're all capable of serving the airport besides of ours, now have certified engineers and project managers. So breaking it down to three, the majority of Stantec airports are in Kentucky. You only have a few current airport projects in Tennessee. They don't have a lot of close relationship with CDOT. SNME is a similar situation where most of their projects are in Alabama. So that looks at Barge. I've been on the airport for me, I think for 15 years now, and Barge has served at our airport for a little over 18 years. They've been looked at the hangar construction, renovation, runway extension, the apron expansion, the current apron rehab project. Ray Buchanan's been our airport rep that entire time. I just want to say they've always been there for us. They've saved some money. Of course, the money that pays this company comes out of the projects that we worked on a separate cost. They're easy to work with, and they've always been the bat for us. And so for that reason, I see no reason not to recommend Barge for our engineering firm for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Jason. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Jason Duke, Airport Board Chair? If not, does anybody want to make a motion on his recommendation?
I'll make a motion for that.
Vice Mayor Winningham makes a motion to take Jason Duke's recommendation to hire Barge Wagner Southern County. Actually, it's the Barge Design Group, I think. There's a motion, is there a second? Second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Vice Mayor Winningham.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Eastman.
Yes.
Alderman Dodson.
Yes.
Alderman Ackford.
Yes.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Duke. You can hang up now, or you can stay with us.
No longer. Good night.
All right, thank you. If no other business is before the city, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Alderman Ken Dodson, second by Alderman Coleman. All for the motion, let know saying aye. All opposed, like sign, we're adjourned.